Evening.
My name is Donald DeKramer. I'm a facilities engineer with Mayo Facility Services. We're here, as you mentioned, Council President Means, that to present our 5-year update, but also to request approval of a modification to the special subdistrict boundaries. Tonight, the presentation on this will be given to you by Mr. John Wah.
This has an overlay within those sub-districts of showing in green the properties that are owned by Mayo.
Since the people at home can't see that, the total amount that you had on January 1st of 2011 was 32,349 employees, and approximately half of those are in the central business district, right?
In terms of acknowledging the green space linkages and corridors in Rochester with Soldiers Field and the Cascade Creek and the Zumbro River flowing through Rochester, and then as well as trying to provide areas and promote bike linkages from these trails into the downtown, as well as obviously to the Mayo campus, has been a very important aspect, as well as creating open green spaces. As you know, it's a very dense campus, but the idea of trying to create spaces with relief for both employees and patients has been a very important element. But in terms of medical projects in the central sub-district, we have potential hospital facility expansion east of Eisenberg, continued renovations in Charlton, Eisenberg, and Colonial for both out and inpatient functions, vertical horizontal expansion of the Jacobson Proton Therapy Facility, which is under construction right now. It will be designed for vertical and horizontal expansion. Renovation and replacement of Charlton North, which are the temporary buildings that are north of Charlton. Continued renovations and complete fit-up of the Gonda building, which is almost complete. There's about a floor and a half that's not fit out in that building today. It was designed, or is designed for vertical expansion of phase 3 of the Gonda building. There are continuing renovations within the Mayo building as functions have been moved into Gonda building. There is a potential of west horizontal expansion of the Baldwin building, vertical expansion of the Harwood building, major expansion on Block 12. Block 12 is the block south of Hilton and Guggenheim. That is planned, as was shown actually in the downtown master plan, that for research, education, and clinical laboratories. Essentially, that space south of 2nd Street, as Don mentioned, is really the area for education and research and clinical labs, and part of that reason is that going further south then would be University of Minnesota Rochester potential facilities. Another is the expansion of the Opus Radiology Research Building, potential of a heavy charged particle facility north of Charlton. That's where the Charlton North is today. Vertical expansion of Dan Abraham Healthy Living and Wellness Center, and the potential of a cyclotron for radiology or a hyperbaric facility on Block 54, which is north of the Graham ramp, which is a parking lot today. Under parking, we would expand parking on Block 5, which is north of the West Employee Ramp, which is the parcel that Don spoke of that was recently acquired. Expand parking on Block 11, which is north of Lourdes. Mayo does use part of that block today. Provision for mixed-use project and staff parking ramp, possibly to include education and administrative support south of the Baldwin building. And a new parking ramp and loading dock facility on Block 21, which is east of the Employee West ramp or north of St. John's Church. Potential of expanding parking on the Block 7 south of 4th Street, which is immediately south of Block 12, which is 2 blocks south of Hilton Guggenheim. And then a staff and employee parking ramp on Block 6 south of Medical Science Building.
With regards to C202,
Yes.
is that utilizing the existing parking space there more extensively, or is there actually
Yes.
consideration of, okay, not,
Yeah.
not a ramp?
Not a ramp at this point, no. Although, I guess there's no reason to forecast it here. I think if there were a ramp, it would probably be closer in than on that site. I don't really know, actually.
Right,
Yeah.
but given the nature of that area, then that
Yes.
would be done in context to the
That's right.
neighborhood?
Yes.
Thank you.
I think your suggestion, or your observation is correct, yes.
Thank you.
In terms of support facilities, there is potential to add to the Prospect Utility Plant, which is on Civic Center Drive, to have a support building adjacent to Franklin Station, a subway connection from Baldwin to Osmond East, potential support for Dan Abraham Healthy Living Center, subway connections from Dan Abraham Healthy Living Center to Osmond, and infrastructure and/or support for Block 12, which would be, by infrastructure, we mean subways and utilities. Development of lure site for support activities. And then there has been talk of providing, or somehow providing, a chilled water storage facility, which would be somewhere near the distribution loop. So that's for the downtown campus. For West Subdistrict, actually planning is underway, looking at emergency department expansion or renovation within Mary Bry, a continued phase renovation of Domitilla, east expansion of Mary Bry for diagnostic treatment and beds, horizontal and vertical expansion of the Generose building, potential renovation of portions of the Alfred and Joseph buildings for support use after inpatient use would be moved out. Partial and full enclosure full enclosure of the Edith Graham Courtyard for patient and family functions, upgrading the landscape treatment of the Francis Courtyard, vertical expansion above the Mary Bry West underground visitor ramp, possibly, and then continued campus planning, renovation, and regenerations for medical uses. At the St. Mary's campus, there's also potential of an administrative and support parking facility at 11th Avenue and 2nd Street. And then the potential of another parking ramp east of the East Employee Ramp, which is basically into that hillside. In terms of support functions, again, this W201 is an area where there could be some administrative facilities with that parking ramp at 11th Avenue and 2nd Street Southwest. There's the potential of relocating or replacing Old Marion Hall on St. Mary's Hospital campus, creating an east hospital entrance, potential of extending the internal circulation spine all the way from through East Mary Bry to the chapel, providing pedestrian skyway from Mary Bry to the Generose building, which actually was in the structural of the original building. Potential of skyway or subway connections north across 2nd Street and/or west across 14th Avenue. Expansion of St. Mary's power plant and utility distribution, and developing campus entrance at 11th Avenue and 2nd Street, which would relieve congestion on residential streets while allowing for a central shuttle entrance for Mayo employees. Potential consolidating the docks, which now are in about 3 or 4 different locations. Renovation of St. Mary's Convent, replacement of the laundry and service building functions, and potential of skyways from Old Marion Hall either to the MRI addition or Alfred building. So you can see there's a lot of potential projects. Again, only a few of them are even in the works right now. So
With regards to W201 and W305, my understanding is that Mayo's been working with the 2nd Street guidelines as well as part of that project, and is that something that's important to Mayo as well?
yes.
Okay, outstanding.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, in fact, when you see the modifications that are being asked for 2nd Street in terms of the extension of the zone, that has an impact on that too.
Okay. And then specifically with that parking ramp, then it would be would you have the intent of activating the street level then, on 2nd Street?
Absolutely.
That's,
Yes,
That's very,
it's-
you're ahead of the city on that one.
Well,
Thank you for showing that leadership.
No, it's been a talking point of ours, at least as designers, all the way along, to activate the street and to, to do that. So, of course, they need to hire us to do it.
Duly noted.
Somebody else. Right.
Let the minute show.
Of .5 FAR with 57 acres, it has an allowable 1.2 million square feet that could be built out there. That has been master planned. Currently, there's about 1,000 employees who are on that site. I think eventually the Northwest Clinic would probably be moved to that site. That's the plan. In terms of circulation and parking today, it's rather minimal parking. However, for employees, there is a fair amount of parking there as well as on the Celestica site. In terms of loading dock facilities, this is just showing the number of dock facilities at each of the locations with their warehouse, as well as Celestica, as well as the facilities warehouse, and then out on the support center site. That is master planned to have a power plant facility which would supply electricity, steam, and chilled water to that campus at some point in the future. And then this shows the trail that abuts the property, as well as green space, park areas that are, or golf courses that are closely adjacent. And actually, we're promoting to the city that bike trail ought to really be extended all the way into the center of the city to make it more accessible.
If you saw that as a non-motorized method of connecting your campus out there to
Right.
downtown, do you
Sure.
feel that there's an employee appetite to use it?
I would imagine they're, given the healthy living center that's there and the potential to bike, I can't imagine it'd be a huge use, but the idea that it would be obviously available to the rest of the city residents too, to get to that trail. Basically, all of Northwest Rochester would then, could feed into that trail and use that trail.
Appreciate that.
I think we're just looking for every way we can to encourage bike or even walking trails that go right to the center of the city.
Yeah.
So in terms of projects out there, that when it was master planned 8, 9, almost 10 years ago, the Northwest Primary Clinic would be probably the only medical facility out there. The rest of it would be support facilities and parking. So there's potential of a data center and technology center out there, utility building, which I just mentioned, the administrative office and support buildings, and then there would be an underground utilities loop on that campus.
Emphasize that one more time, because I think just about every property owner on that stretch is here at the meeting tonight. So, ultimately, this does not affect the property that you currently own. If Mayo were ever to acquire any of the properties in this stretch, then this would come into play, but it's not changing anything that's currently there.
Yeah, and one of the things that we would like to see along, it would be, I think, good for the city to look at changing the zoning requirements, because the idea of having the historical buildings on the north side of the block on the north of 2nd Street and retaining those, but still allowing the right kind of development to occur on 2nd Street in terms of pedestrian level retail or whatever. Currently, the zoning doesn't really encourage any of that.
Yeah, that you bring up a good point. I was curious. You've seen the guidelines that are laid out on the 2nd Street, and quite frankly, we don't have the zoning that matches that kind of guidance right now.
Yep.
You would be suggesting to us some sort of a form-based zoning for a corridor would be appropriate here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it could really be a neat connector between, no matter who builds the buildings along there, it could encourage the right kind of development, but
well,
not kind of stepping out of the bounds of where.
I understand it, and Jeff Ellerbush and Kutsky Park are working together on some of those same challenges right now.
Yeah. So, and one of the advantages, for Mayo in this district would be able to build a building without having to have the parking right there. It could be on the St. Mary's campus, or, so there's opportunities, and I think that it would be really good to develop that. But, so at the same you know, it's really two different issues, but we're asking for a 5-year update approval, and then we're also asking for the modifications to the central subdistrict as well as the west subdistrict. And those yellow areas that were created as buffers, the ones that are left, we're leaving them. Because as you can see, for the most part downtown, in effect, this consumes some of those buffer areas. So with that, I think that's our presentation.
Edmonds.
My name is Dave Edmondson. I just wanted to take the opportunity to publicly thank Don and these gentlemen for approaching the neighborhood several months ago and sharing this plan with us and giving us a chance to answer questions and see how it worked, and then arranged for a meeting for our neighborhood people to come. And so we wish them well. We're in favor of their plan. It makes sense to us, and we're pleased to be their neighbor and wish them continued success. Thanks.
I didn't realize that since 1985, the Mayo Clinic in Rochester has developed faster than the city, almost doubling its presence in 25 years. So I thank you so much for doubling your presence right here in our home, in your home.
You know, what we see here is just a real high quality, well thought out plan that we're thrilled to have in our community. I think it just creates a very exciting future for all involved. And you know, as we see this work going on, I think we're very thrilled as a city to have Mayo and everything that they project and the plan and they carry out in our community. And so thank you for your time and for all that you do for our community.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Two things. Can this document be, the 5-year plan especially, be put in the public library so everybody can see it?
I was gonna add, I read through this, I did read through this, it's incredible, and I highly recommend citizens take a look at it, and I was wondering what I was gonna do to get rid of my book now that I was done reading it, and thank you, Barry, for the suggestion. We'll be dropping it off at the library. You know, being that a lot of my neighborhoods surround this, of course, I have a lot of concerns, but you know, what I found in dealing with Mayo and the answers that I received here is, you know, you're not only their neighbor, but you're a champion for the policies that we're working towards as a city, and we do really appreciate that. And it's one thing for us to create plans and work with the community and try and come up with something that we see as our consensus going forward. But, you know, without Mayo being there and championing these plans and supporting them as well, it's kind of for naught. And the fact that you're out there, you know, championing a lot of what we're talking about and, you know, making sure that as we develop, we're doing it the right way for the good of the whole community. I know the neighborhoods in particular really appreciate that, and it's very important to them going forward. So I thank you for the information, and, you know, I look forward to that next 10,000 jobs coming.
Okay. Everyone had an opportunity to speak. Thank you very much. I think now we'd like a motion to regarding the proposed amendment to the special district.
Move approval.
Move approval.
Were
Second.
there any conditions on there? I don't think there were. Just checking real quick.
2 points.
Motion
Sorry,
was
what was
made
that,
by
Mr.
Mr.
Ruska?
Just the 2 items that we were supposed to approve is all. I don't think there's any conditions.
Move approval.
Second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ruska.
Before we vote, I would just note my affiliation with Mayo Clinic, although I have no involvement with any of the facilities projects.
Thank you.
And I should also acknowledge I do work for Mayo Clinic, but again, I, like Mr. Staver, have no involvement in the planning of future development of Mayo.
Thank you. So we have a motion by Mr. Wojcik, second by Mr. Ruska, to amend the special district. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. The second portion of that action needed by the council is to approve the new 5-year plan update.
Move approval.
Move approval by Mr. Snyder, second by Mr. Wojcik. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so those two items are complete.